Who are you? And where are you going? What do you want?
Hello and welcome to Jiggers' Place. I'm your host, Kevin Bemel, and I'm here every other Thursday at 5 p.m. Pacific time to have a cocktail and a schmooze to talk about all of the things I don't talk about in my other 3 shows each week. So we talk about relationships, we talk about values, we talk about great books, and we have a cocktail. And so that's always what we start out with. And so today, or this afternoon, I'm going to be talking about life planning. And so in honor of life planning, my drink co-creator and I, ChatGPT, created a cocktail called The Blueprint. And you'll see it's kind of a riff on a dry martini. And we'll see how good it is. So we're going to start out with some London dry gin. This is just the sort of basic gin that's out there. I like Brokers because it has the derby hat on the handle. Can you see that? There you go. See that? See, he's got a little derby on. That cracks me up. And then I've got some Cinzano dry vermouth. This happens to be the kosher one, which you can get in Israel. And then some Bénédictine, which is kind of an herbaceous liqueur. And then we're going to have some fresh lemon juice. I'll squeeze in a minute. And then some Bitterman's Orchard Street celery shrub bitters. Okay, so we're going to start out with 1.5 ounces of gin. Let's see, where's the glass here? I always have trouble finding this. Here we go. Okay, 1.5 ounces. Put that in the mixing glass. For regular watchers of the show, you may be thinking, wait, that's not the mixing glass you usually use. Yeah, this is a different one. It's narrower, it's taller, kind of not to be funny. Mix things up a little bit. And then I'm going to use 1/2 ounce of the dry vermouth, otherwise known as French vermouth. Sweet vermouth is also known as Italian vermouth. Okay. And then 1/4 ounce of Bénédictine. And there we go. That's about 1/4 of an ounce. Put that in there. And I didn't pre-squeeze the lemon juice. I thought I'd do that now. I'm just going to squeeze this right into the mixing glass until I've got about 1/4 of an ounce. Thinking maybe 1/4 of, oh wow, that's almost 1/2 ounce. Okay, so we won't pour it all in. Yeah, not that much. Rub the lemon into my hands, why not? Okay, and then we need 2 dashes of the bitters. 1, 2. Okay, and now we're going to stir this up. And it doesn't want to cooperate. So I always mention when we're shaking or stirring, it's more than just mixing the different ingredients together. We're also looking, of course, to chill it down, but also to let some of the water melt, which opens up the various flavors of the different ingredients in the cocktails. And you can see the glass is beginning to froth. Usually you want to mix or shake for 20 to 30 seconds. And okay, that should do it. And we'll get our strainer out. And we'll pour into our Nick and Nora glass. Nick and Nora, of course, refers to the Thin Man, one of my favorite movie series. And then we're going to express a lemon twist. And it says to discard it, but I'm going to drop it in. Why not? Okay, here we go. Very nice. A little bit different than a martini. The Bénédictine brings more flavors to it. Okay, see you over on the couch. Sorry about that. I forgot to turn the microphone on. So I've got my spherical pill to play with, and I was saying I have my throw here, which in case it gets warm, or in case it gets too cold, which is not going to be the case here in Los Angeles. We've had unseasonably warm weather the last few days, unfortunately, because I like cold weather, but I know many people do not, and they're happy that we're having warm weather here in LA. So it's the 15th of January. We're about 2 weeks into the new year. I have to have some more to drink. Very nice. So I don't know if people today still have the compulsion to make New Year's resolutions. That used to be the thing to do in anticipation of the new year. And I do not make New Year's resolutions. I don't think they're useful, frankly, and I don't follow trends like dry January and wet December or whatever they have. I don't find any of that useful. What I do find useful is understanding what I want my life to be, and then working consistently toward making my life that way. And for many, many, many years, I set goals about, I wanted to be making this much money, I wanted to have this thing, I wanted to have that thing. And what I found was the goals largely didn't work for a number of reasons. So let's take a net worth goal. Like I want to be a millionaire, for example. Okay. So let's say you meet that goal. Let's say you work on it, and after 10 years, you accumulate $1 million. Okay. And let's say you have that part of that $1 million in mutual funds or ETFs or even individual stocks. Okay. And let's say a year later, the stock market drops and the value of your portfolio drops so much that now you don't have $1 million any longer. Okay, well, I guess you still met the goal of being worth $1 million, but that doesn't really do you any good now,
because you're not worth $1 million anymore. So do you need to set that goal again, or what? So, and as well, once you have that $1 million, okay, is the next goal to have $2 million, and then maybe 4, and then maybe 8, or maybe 5 or 6? Where is the point at which you're content with your net worth? So this is quite a number of years ago now. I want to say 5-6 years ago. A friend of mine by the name of Jeffrey Hazlett, who is the founder of C-Suite Networks. So Jeff introduced me to the concept of conditions of satisfaction. Here's 2 conditions of satisfaction. So conditions of satisfaction really are the ideas around which we're living our lives so that we can be appreciative and have some sense that we're living the life that we want to live. And so if instead of a $1 million and then a 2 and then a 4 and a 6 or an 8 or a 5 or whatever $1 million net worth, what is our condition of satisfaction with regard to net worth? Okay. And that will be different for each of us. For some of us, I suppose it's going to be, I don't know, $1 billion, or maybe, I guess, $1 trillion. But I suspect for most of us, it's not going to be nearly that high. We're not going to want to make the sacrifices that it takes to make that kind of money. We're not going to want to have the responsibilities that are inherent in having that kind of wealth. And so what is the level of wealth that we want that will bring us happiness, contentment, fulfillment, instill within us a sense of gratitude, etc.? And again, that's going to be different for different people. So I'm not going to talk about my personal goals. I don't think that's appropriate. I also don't want to sort of lead the witness, as they say. But what that is will depend a lot on who we are, how we grew up, where we live, how big our family is, and the kinds of things that we want to be able to do. Give money to charity, travel, attend a lot of popular cultural events, those kinds of things. And the thing about a condition of satisfaction is it can change over time, okay? And as well, so the idea of a condition of satisfaction is once we reach it, then we're really in maintenance mode. And so let's say, for the sake of discussion, our condition of satisfaction for net worth is $1 million. And so we get our $1 million. Okay, now we're in maintenance mode. And then, the market drops, and now maybe our net worth is only $900,000. Okay, well, we'll work back up to the $1 million figure. Okay, but now the second time we're in maintenance mode, maybe the idea is that we're going to invest differently so that we can maintain that $1 million net worth. Or we may have realized that $1 million, maybe that's not enough. Maybe our net worth needs to be $1.5 million so that the things in which we invest are safe enough that we don't have to be concerned about a significant loss in capital, and yet we still have sufficient income in order to live the life that we want to live. So these are the kinds of issues with which we can work with, struggle with as we live our lives. Okay. And the other thing is, especially if we're married, so we, a husband and a wife can figure out conditions of satisfaction together, right? And hopefully, if there's differences of opinion as to what it should be, well, okay, so then they, husband and wife can make some compromises, and then they've got conditions of satisfaction to which they can both aspire, or really to which they can aspire to as a couple. Okay. All right. So for any long-term goal, I have conditions of satisfaction, not goals. Okay. So for my income, my net worth, those, I have conditions of satisfaction for that. Now, in order to meet them, I have certain goals that are a year or less in time frame. Okay. So with respect to my business, my goals typically tend to be 3, 6, 9, or 12-month goals. Okay. And so, for example, with respect to my shows, my goal by the end of this year is to have at least 4,500 subscribers. Okay. I have roughly 2,300 right now. So I want to double that over, the rest of the year. Okay. So short-term goals are goals. Anything midterm or long-term is really more of a condition of satisfaction, and it evolves as my life goes on, as I understand myself better, as my personal situation changes, that sort of thing. So that's number one. Number two, I have conditions of satisfaction for each of the 9 realms within the 3 pillars of attainment. So let me see if I can. I don't think I have. Oops, wrong one. Okay. I don't know what this is doing, but okay. Well, this is what I wanted. Yep, there we go. So I don't think I have that in my presentations. No, unfortunately not. Okay, well, that's all right. So go over here. Oops. And let's bring up that graphic. I probably should have had it ready, of course, and I didn't. Oh, and of course it's not. Okay, well, I don't want to take a lot of time on this. So the 3 pillars of attainment are self, relationships, and pursuits, right? So starting with the pursuits realm, because it's the easiest one, there is, shoot, I went up on it. Oh my goodness. Here we go. So there are, boy, I'm really, I'm really at a loss here. Here we go. No, that's an old one. Oh, I'm so sorry. This should be going more smoothly, but it just isn't. Okay. And oh, that's not going to open. Oh, yeah, it will open up. Okay. Here we go. Come on. Well, this is a little bit embarrassing since I don't seem to be able to find the images that I need. Oh, wait a minute. Here we go. When there's a will, there's a way. Here we go. Okay. Okay. Here we go. All right. And I can even share this. Share screen. And there we go. And share. And let's go back here. And oh, no, I shared the wrong one. Let's hold on. There we go. Okay, finally. And let's go ahead and okay, there we go. All right. So now you can see the 3 pillars of attainment, and you can see here's the pursuits pillar, and within it we have finances, we have learning, and we have play. So I have conditions of satisfaction with respect to all 3 of those realms within the pursuits pillar. Okay. And then likewise in the relationships pillar, so there's family, friends, and God. And again, I actually have 1 condition of satisfaction for each realm in each of the pillars. So I have a total of 9 conditions of satisfaction for my life. Now, why only 1? It's so that within that realm, I can really focus on what is most important. Okay. And then in the self realm, there's health, mindset, and identity. And again, I have 1 condition of satisfaction within each of for each one of the realms. Okay. There we go. Okay, so I'll just leave that off to the side. And for me, and this is one of the reasons why I developed the 3 pillars of attainment, it's important not to become overly focused on, for example, finances. Okay. Among my colleagues and I, our running theme since really kind of last month is we work to live, we don't live to work. And that's important because it's very easy to get very deeply involved in work and to the neglect of other aspects of our life. And it's a shame. And I think a lot of people who have devoted themselves to amassing wealth at the expense of their marriage, relationships with their children, developing other interests outside of professional interests, they amass this wealth and they realize that their lives are rather empty, and now they've got to rebuild. And you might think, well, but now they've got all this money and so they can do all these things. Yes, it's not so easy. When people have that level of wealth, always in the back of their mind is this person interested in me because I'm wealthy or because of me? Right. And it's one of the reasons why we tend to see wealthy people marrying other wealthy people, because to a certain extent that mitigates that concern. Right. And I know a lot of wealthy people. I have known many more throughout my life. And I think the vast majority of them would agree that indeed money can't buy happiness. it can buy a lot of distractions, and it can make it easier to deal with the problems of life. But it can't buy happiness. It can't buy the love of a spouse. It can't buy the attachment of children, not the true attachment and not true love. It can buy someone who will feign those emotions in order to still have access to the money. Okay, but it can't buy those. Okay, now that I'm not saying therefore that somebody who's wealthy, can't find a loving spouse. Of course they can, but that spouse loves them whether they're wealthy or not, and it's hard. It's hard, and even for the spouse, I can imagine that there would be doubts. Do I really love my husband, my wife, or would I continue to love him or her if the money was gone? And so it's not so easy navigating those issues when there's a lot of money involved. So what does that mean then for planning your life? Well, it means that all the realms of our life are important. That's why I built the graphic of the 3 pillars of attainment the way I did. Okay? And while for practical reasons, we may have to spend more time working than we do looking after other realms of our life. Okay. So we may spend, 8 to 9 hours a day on finances. Okay. So that leaves 15 to 16 hours for the rest of the day. Okay. Subtract sleep, 7-8 hours, right? So we're down to 7 to 8 hours a day for the other 8 realms. Okay. Now, they are still as important as finances, and so we've got to find a way to be as efficient and focused as we possibly can when we're involved with one of the other realms. And ideally, we'll find ways to be involved with multiple realms. So, for example, going to worship services, that gives us an opportunity to work on all 3 of the realms in relationships, family, friends, and God. It also gives us an opportunity to be involved in really all 3 of the realms of self. So health, mindset, and identity, right? And if we're going to a scripture study class, a Bible study class, we can be involved in one of the realms of the pursuits pillar, learning. Okay. So if we take our family and go with take our family and go with some of our friends to a social event or some kind of fun event, we go to a concert. Okay. So we can involve 2 out of the relationships realm, family and friends. We can involve 1 out of the pursuits realm, play. And, maybe we're also involving 1 or 2 of the realms in self, identity, mindset. Maybe going to theater inspires our mind, something like that. Okay. We may do some sort of physical activity. We may go on a hike with our family. So now we're dealing with health and family. Maybe we take some friends along and play, right? So the idea is, and it's frankly much easier to combine the other 8 realms into activities than it is to do so in the finances realm. Now, there are exceptions. If we're working on the family finances, then we can work with the family together. If we're in business with our family members, okay, so same thing, right? But the idea is, as we create conditions of satisfaction in the various realms of our lives, and then expand on those conditions of satisfactions into actual behaviors, activities, there's ways to make them overlap so that you're really working on multiple realms of your life at the same time, and in so doing, really enriching your life. And so that's my message in terms of life planning, is use the 3 pillars of attainment to help you figure out what do I want my life to be? What do I want it to be with the other people in my life? And what does that mean about how I think, how I behave, what I do? Okay? All of those will feed into and help you figure out what your conditions of satisfaction are. And then once you have those conditions of satisfaction written down, then you can work on them and really live the life that you've created for yourself. So, I thank you very much for joining me here at Jiggers' Place, and I wish you a wonderful evening. And I sign off the way I always do. Marie, darling, you are my belle. Courage at all